Hmm? Hello everyone. Welcome to the yet another, sorry, the first episode of Into the Rough. So this is a new podcast format we have come up with. So the thing was that we have written this six, seven different articles, and we
Yeah,
were
each
not
of them
creating like
45,000 words long.
yes, and four readers, 45,000 words round and 4.5 readers.
Yeah,
So
two of
we
them
wanted
were
to
Atharva and anyways. So.
yes. So we wanted to like increase our reader base. So we thought that let's copy a very famous cricket writer and no one will notice that the format that he talks about his articles in his podcast. So yeah, this is a very new concept which we came up with. So we are going to discuss our process, our fascination with our article, and we are going to in some way get into deeper in our article. So yeah, so this article is like the Fab Four 7 gears and a few loose screws. So few loose screws are going to discuss about Fab Four and 7 gears. So without further ado, I would like to tell I think Adityan, would you like to tell us our viewers what are 7 gears actually? And why seven
Yeah.
is not Thala for a reason, something else other than that, like
Oh no, that's the full story. Let's finish our podcast here. Thanks for joining. This is the first episode of Into the Rough. No, right? Like overall, right? Like there's always this tension between what can numbers do for you and where we need vibes, right? Like that's
yeah.
what cricketers like to say. Okay, look, cricket is much more than numbers. There is the human element to it, the skill element to it, and as analysts like to say, like the entire 2024 World Cup was won on the back of Himanish and his data analytics. The players like
Yeah.
even you and I could have won India that World Cup if we had
Yeah, I could have bowled that wide Yorker which Hardik Pandya bowled to Klaasen
wide
and
back off length, wide back off length,
sorry,
but.
yeah, it was a back off and
Yeah, but anyways, right? So the point is, there are some things which numbers can tell you about, and some things where you need better context than than what just vanilla numbers can be, right?
hmm.
So, for instance, there are some if you look at centuries, like the Harry Brook 100 against Pakistan, where he scores a triple hundred, where
Yeah.
they scored 800 like in 20 minutes or something, right? That you don't need context. Just
Hmm.
look at the strike rate, it's special, right? On the other hand, if you go to the other extreme, why is Tendulkar's 241 special? Like the scorecard can say absolutely nothing about it. Even if I give you the ball by ball data, even if you go further deep, right? Like, how much did the ball swing? How much did the ball seam? Like all those things.
Hmm.
That still doesn't tell you anything about their innings. That
No.
innings is special because Tendulkar put away his cover drive entirely for their innings, right? So there is on this one end, there is this innings which data just cannot explain, and there is this other end where a simple statistic, like just the score line tells you why this innings is special,
Hmm.
right? But there are a lot of things in the middle. So for instance, if you look at Ben Stokes in 2019, the famous Headingley innings, right? That's like simply ridiculous innings because the way he was batting with Jack Leach and took England home, and even otherwise, if you just look at his innings progression, right? He would start by scoring 8 runs of 80 balls.
Yeah.
Right? That's
I
where he would
think
start.
for visual information, here is the ball by ball for that innings.
Right? So
Yeah,
the,
like
the first
so
Go
I
for
can
it,
see
go for
that
it.
right, whatever you said. Like it's ridiculous, right? For first 80 ball, this man hits one boundary and four singles. So there are only five scoring shots in first 80 balls.
I
And
don't
after
remember on
that,
the top of my head, but how happy are you to take a bet that that single boundary was an outside edge or something?
most likely I'll be like I'll be 60-40 on that, I think, or 70-30 also, whatever. But and if you look at the like here G6 area where they are just like Manhattan buildings, like they are just like six, like so many sixes, and I think all of them came after like Hazelwood's bowling, who were like very
Basically, he
metronomical.
assaulted Hazelwood then, right?
Yeah, so that's the thing. He was a very metronomical bowler, and he just went on for it. So yeah, like so these innings, right? So the whole what Adityan was trying to say, right? Like these contexts are very important, and I think this inning talks more about tempo of batting. Like first 80 balls, he was quite slow. Then he changes, so we know what is gear zero. Like commentators have talked about it for ages, right? Like which, like you say, your favorite Sunil Gavaskar dialogue. Please repeat it.
Stupid, stupid, stupid.
Yeah. So this stupid,
He should
stupid,
not be
stupid
going
knocks,
to his
right?
own dressing room.
Yeah. So the stupid,
He
stupid,
should
stupid
be going
dialogue,
to the
right?
opponent's dressing room.
Okay, now let me speak. So this stupid dialogue happens when Sunil Gavaskar wants Pant to bat in gear 3 or gear 2, and Pant wants to always bat at gear 6. So cricketers have never like defined these gears, but we always knew that okay, people have talked about it. So
Yeah.
we
Do we have
came up with
negative gears
a
also, like where Pujara and Sibley bat all the time?
no, sadly or not sadly for us, but good for them, we don't have negative gears. But yeah, so we tried to came up with this metric of gears. What we did was that we came up with an algorithm to really, in some way, bunch of like make a group of bunch of balls, which are like consecutive balls, in which batter is batting in similar tempo in some way.
Right.
And
So a simple thing to do is like, you just do like cluster eight consecutive balls and then say, okay, look, if the strike rate in the first eight balls is this much, this is gear zero. If the strike rate in the next eight balls is this much, this is gear three or whatever. Except it need not always be multiples of eight, right? So for
yeah,
instance, if you look at this, it so happened like the first 80 balls, Stokes was doing basically nothing. There is no reason, we would have to split it, in periods of eight just because there was like one random boundary somewhere in the middle that did absolutely nothing to the scoring either before or after that event,
yeah,
right? So we want to, be a little bit more flexible on how we cluster these balls together based on, whether the batter is actually changing their tempo and so on.
yeah.
So we
And
do that. Mhm.
mm. So, and after clustering, we just get those clusters, calculate the strike rate in that clusters, and here you can see that the gear and strike rate thing. Again, this is again a very crude way of doing it. There is no set written formula. So we just came up with a logic that okay, if the cluster is 8 or 10 balls, then if I have a strike rate of 40, it means that I have scored 4 runs. Then how will I score those runs? And if is tempo changing or not. So yeah, you can call us absolute idiot about this part. Like okay, this is just a numbers we came up with. But yeah, so
Right.
this
So it's
we
like,
felt
for
that
instance, right? Like if your strike rate is between 0 and 20, that means you're stuck.
hmm,
That probably means after facing 10 balls, you were able to hit like one single or two singles in 10 balls. And,
hmm,
do that for two or three periods. That is probably Vernon Philander's spell to Virat Kohli, where he basically bowls like seven maidens in a row or something to him,
hmm,
right? There's no way, any good bowler will be able to set you up and get you out if you're like stuck in that gear for a while.
yeah,
And similarly, gear one is 20 to 40 and so on.
yeah. So like
Um,
after getting this metric right, we thought that
right.
okay, what should we do after getting this metric? Like where to apply this metric?
Right. So
And you
for
know, right?
instance, right, like you can have like slightly different versions of this. You can be 0 to 15 is gear zero and so on. But we can do like a quick sanity check and then figure out whether this actually makes sense. So for instance, if Pujara is batting in gear six all the time, then clearly we have made a mistake with our metric.
Hmm,
Okay, sorry for Pujara for all the insults that we have going on here. But yeah, it does make sense. If we look at like the top 15 batters who have faced at least 1,000 balls, I think, and the
yeah,
highest share of gear zero. I think the right names pop up. There's Neil McKenzie, Lahiri Tirumane, Rahul Dravid, Pujara,
Craig Brathwaite.
Brathwaite, yeah, right? Guptill and FDP are like bit surprising here, but if you look at their overall stats, I think it actually is not surprising. Their career
Yeah,
strike rates are somehow less than 50. Like that is surprising, but now once you check that, now it does make sense that they
yeah,
do belong to this list.
yeah. And on the other side, if you look at like gear six, so
Hmm.
just look at the first name,
Right.
Adam
Every
Gilchrist.
time Atharva says this, I can see the lust in his eyes.
So yeah, so like Adam Gilchrist, the man batted like 25% of his deliveries in Gear 6. So and again you can see the usual suspects like Gilchrist. South is again famous for hitting sixes, Duckett, the father of attacking cricket, and but Adam Gilchrist was before him, whatever. Like Harry Brooks, Sehwag. One more interesting fact in this that most of these guys are openers or wicketkeeper batters. Like so that again, like wicketkeeper batters were first of those kinds who were trying to attack more, and now this new format of like Sehwag kind of opening is quite famous. So yeah, so by after this sanity check, we felt that okay, whatever, like we have got it somewhat fine, like right, yeah. And then, okay, then. So after like doing the sanity check, we thought about, okay, let's see, like, where can we apply it?
Mhm.
So as we know, right? Hmm, yeah,
Right.
go on.
So here the story is as follows, right? So for instance, if you use these gears to conclude that Adam Gilchrist is much more attacking than Pujara, like you don't need such like interesting new metrics for that. Everybody knows it. But on the other hand, like if you look at four similar batters, right? Like if you look at like Tendulkar, Dravid, and so on, it's not like their strike rate is massively different, right? So we chose four such batters, like the Fab Four. And one reason it's fascinating because, like, okay, look, these are four batters who are like very similar on the age curve, and all of whom ended up in like the top 50 batters of all time from, in Jared's art of batting. And one man actually predicted this in 2014. And if you remember, 2014 was still like a very batting era. Times changed, like cricket has changed since then, but still somehow these names are talked about in the same breath over and over again.
Yeah.
And their stats are also pretty similar, right? Like, you know, their averages maybe not so much, but there is like context as to why Kohli is averaging less than the others. Like there was a period when Kohli was kind of, averaging much better than the others. And even if you look at their strike rates, Kohli strikes at 55, Smith strikes at 53. So these are like very similar batters in terms of what your raw stats tell you,
Hmm.
right? But then we use like our gears here and try to figure out, okay, is there something more on, beyond what just the stats tell us?
Yeah.
So for instance, something that Jared tells, so I'll just give like a one-line summary of each of these batters, right? And then we'll have an idea. About Williamson, Jared talks about, how he's like very tactical in the way he approaches his games, right? In limited overs, Williamson just goes and then says, look, this wicket is, the power is 243. He'll bat and then get the team to 244. The opponent will score 242 and New Zealand will be 2 runs.
Hmm.
Steve Smith, he just loves to bat. He doesn't like care about anything else. He just wants to keep batting. Kohli, on the other hand, it doesn't matter if he scores a lot of runs or not. What matters, he has to like shake the belief of the opponents. Like he has to get his cover drive out. He need to scare the opponent bowlers. Joe Root, he just keeps taking singles, right? These are things that Jared uses to describe these batters in the art of batting, and many times in his podcast and so on. Right? To spot this, you needed somebody on the level of Jared, or somebody who has played a lot of cricket and so on. So we can ask, okay, can we use our ears to get into like these kinds of questions, which hopefully we are able to get some signals on what these players are made of, what makes these players great. We don't claim to solve every single aspect of their greatness and so on, but it's interesting that we're able to pick some signals here and there about like a lot of vibe things that people talk about in cricket. Okay, so that's for my very long-ish introduction for something very simple. We are basically comparing the Fab Four. Let's move on.
Yes.
Move on.
Okay. So
Right.
before like going into like differences and everything, I think let's just look at like how similar these guys are in some aspect. So actually we
Mhm.
came up with something called like in how what is your like normal chunk length, like ball length per gear, like gear shifts. And
Oh, right.
these guys are very similar, like they are like on point. So like the average top seven batter is like 15.14, and then Cole is like 15.07, Williamson like 15.53, and like and all four are lie between like point half a ball. So they are
Hmm.
like in that aspect they are very similar. They are
Right.
also
And
very
that is not
similar.
to say like
Hmm.
literally every batter is similar, right? I think
Yeah,
Dan Vettori is like at 12 balls, he changes gear once every 12 balls, whereas
Hasib
Hasib
is
Hamid, who remembers
19
him?
balls.
Yeah, he takes like 19 balls
I
to.
think England is going to remember him again in some
Let's
time
hope
because he's
so.
playing well in county. But
Right.
yeah, and like other things like their strike rates are quite similar as you said that again their gear distribution initially is quite similar with like if I just share their gear distribution career gear distribution it will be easy to see. Hmm. So as you can see here, right, like their gear distribution initial gears are quite similar around like 20s and again but like the if you look into high gears, then there are some stories. And but if you look at them, not nuances, not with any nuance of innings or not with any nuance of home and away and all these things, they still look quite similar, right?
Right. So I mean, in the sense of if you look at how frequently they attack, right? Like you would expect, I don't know, the post baseball version of Jorut and so on to be like ridiculously attacking, Williamson to be extremely defensive and so on.
Hmm.
But if you look at the fraction of balls that they spend in high gear, gears 5 and 6, it's roughly the same, no? The highest is
Yeah,
like 19.6 and then the lowest is
lowest is 17 point.
17.4, which is still 2%, but 2% is like what, two balls in 100, right? If you think about
Yeah.
it, which is not much really. On the other hand, right, if you look at people's distribution in middle gears, which is gears 2 to 4, so gear 2 begins at 40. So that's when you
Hmm.
start cruising. That's when you're not stuck. And 4 ends at 100, right? So that's when like it's like starting at cruising and goes to borderline attacking. So there, it's like a very neat staircase that these guys arrange themselves in.
Yeah.
Right. So Williamson is the least at 34.1. Steve Smith is at 36.2. Kohli is at 37.9, and Joe Root is at 39.4. So this is like in increasing order, which I
Yeah,
just
and
said.
also like it's quite similar, like as we expected, right? Like Williamson was the most defensive one, as you
Exactly.
were talking about how Jared told him, and Joe Root was someone who gets off strike very easily, and it shows that middle gear performance and everything. So, but
Right.
there are some surprise elements here with
Right.
like,
Before that,
huh,
let me just like finish this off. Like if you look at the low gears once again, like naturally, Williamson has like the highest fraction of low gears. Smith next, Kohli next, and Joe Root next, right? So already, maybe I'll just say one thing about Joe Root because it's already fascinating here. The difference between his low gears and middle gears is like just 1%. So the
yeah,
time he spent stuck is actually only like almost comparable the time he's cruising, which is not the case for the others. But yeah,
yes, and also like if you look at their like batting averages in different gears, they are again quite similar on those levels, like with the lower gears. But like just you have to forget Steve Smith in gear one. Like that guy is insane in arithmetic in gear one, even in batting averages, in balls per dismissal. This is insane. Balls per dismissal, and Virat in higher gears, and we will get into this deeper when we are going to discuss them. But if even if you look at them, like how they are like there is this synergy in the way graphs look and everything. So yes. So do you want to get into the individual players now or like you have something to
yeah.
say?
Let's go. Let's go. So we'll start with Williamson,
Okay, the
right?
most vanilla batsman of all time. So we'll just get over with him fast. Yes.
Well,
Okay.
I won't tolerate this Williamson insult, man. Like I'm not moving on this podcast unless you publicly apologize for it. No, no. But anyways, right? So with Williamson, we expect him to be really good at defending and
Hmm.
not so well with attacking, right? And the surprising finding that we have is he's actually better than the other three when it comes to numbers attacking. Or for that
Ta-da!
matter, right? Like not just attacking, like he of course has like a better average than the take Steve Smith out. He has
Hmm.
better average than Kohli and Root,
Yeah.
and it also almost carries over uniformly in like gear zero, gear one, gear two, gear three, gear four, gear five. Gear six is the only place where like Kohli is so ridiculously good, but it almost uniformly carries over. He's good at like all these gears. What is surprising is that he's actually, if you just look only at the high gears, he's still better than Root, Kohli, and Smith put together,
Yeah.
right? And you expect Kohli and Root to attack more. So, okay, one explanation could be that maybe Williamson does not attack as often as Root and Kohli,
Hmm.
and because he's much more choicy when he's because much more choosy when
Choosy.
he's attacking, right? So probably he's just attacking only rank full tosses, or there is like a 10 over burst from I don't know who's my favorite bowler international cricketer, Aiden Markram, right? So maybe that's the kind of bowlers he picks and so on. But that is also not the case, right? Like as we mentioned before, he attacks like close to 17% of the balls, and Joe Root is on the higher end who attacks 19% of his balls. The balls
Yeah.
fraction of balls in high gears. That's what I'm talking about. So
Also
okay, it's
like
not as if
we
Go
huh.
for it. Go
And
ahead.
also like we thought that there is this thing about Williamson, right? Like he doesn't really play well against like good quality teams, and which is again quite true. His average shows that, but that wasn't the case in this case. Like we looked
Right,
at
sorry,
this
I think you'll
whole.
have to
Hmm.
expand on that a little bit, right? Like
Okay.
Williamson has like a ridiculous average. I think he averages 55 or something in Test cricket, right?
Yeah.
But there's a clear asymmetry when you look at teams like Bangladesh, West Indies, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and like teams like these, particularly in New Zealand.
Hmm.
He is god level.
Yeah, it's like
But
better
when
than Bradman. Hmm.
Oh, really? Okay, we will let's give
Could
it on
be.
it. It's fine. Yeah. Yes. But when he is traveling, right, to Australia, New Zealand, sorry, not New Zealand, to India and so on, like he's not that great on the road in particular, and in generally against the stronger teams. So
Hmm.
maybe we thought that could be the case even when he's attacking. He just picks on Shakib Al Hasan Okay, sorry, Shakib is a good bowler,
Wow.
but like
Why? What
yeah, I
did
don't know why I
Shakib do?
randomly exactly.
Okay.
Right. So, anyways, he just picks on bowlers from like weaker bowlers and then just goes nuts. And maybe he struggles against these stronger teams. That was our conjecture. But what did we find, Atharva?
That this conjecture is entirely false. As you can see with this graph here, I
Mm-hmm.
think in this, like, if you look at the away thing, first of all, forget Virat Kohli. Virat Kohli on the road is something else. But Williamson is still like better than Root and Smith on away. Like if you look at the balls per dismissal in higher gears or batting averages in higher gears. So
Right. So
again,
here, what
that
we did, for instance, right, for Smith, what are his major countries? England, India, New Zealand, and South Africa. For
yeah,
Williamson, the major countries are South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and England. So we plotted how all these people do against their major oppositions at home
major.
and away.
Hmm,
And if you look at this, right, like at home, the green spots, right, like Williamson's untouchable. His batting average when attacking is like 240, and this is against major nations that we are talking about here.
yeah.
This might include one series against the SAD 11, the South Africa
Hmm,
D11. But India played there. There was this big England series, right, where England
yeah.
lost by a run, right? So
The
there were like
Byron. Hmm,
right. Even then, like he really likes to bat at home, and this includes Steve Smith in Australia, which is you have to think about it, 2010 Australia, where Mitchell Stark looks close to Bradman, like that kind of flat wickets,
yeah.
right? The only person who's better than Williamson when attacking away from home is Kohli. And this
And
tells
I
you
think
more
we
about
have
Kohli than there's something telling something you about Williamson. Like
yeah.
that guy really rises up to the challenge when it comes to it, right? Like
Like we
when
have whole
fighting
segment
Australian teams.
planned for like Kohli attacking. So yeah, we don't have to
Right.
get in here. Let Williamson have his chance, yeah. Like every time when we're talking about Williamson, we have to talk about someone else. But
No,
yeah,
no,
like
when
hmm.
Williamson retired, there was this brilliant tweet, right? Like Williamson is so nice a person that he even retired for Ben Stokes.
Nice. Hmm. So like again, like yeah. So do you want to talk anything else about him, like about the
Right. No, that sums up, right? So I think the only thing I would say here is it
hmm,
would be nice if we can very definitively say, like, okay, look, Williamson is better because he's just tactically better at picking the right balls to attack. And if
hmm,
you think about it, maybe you can explain it that way in the sense, like, out of 100 balls, he's attacking 17 balls. And
hmm,
he knows which 17 of those balls to attack. So the remaining
hmm,
83 balls, that is exactly where he struggles when traveling away to these major oppositions, right? His record defending in the lower gears in these major opposition countries are not that great, right? So
hmm.
maybe we can make a story around how his ability to pick the right balls to attack is really good, and therefore that is why his numbers are good in gears 5 and 6. But we really don't know. Like I don't think we were able to find that evidence in our gear framework. So that is actually a limitation, and it would be
Also like
interesting if we can actually make
hmm.
something good out of this and then actually clear whether this is what is happening.
Yeah, also there is one more fascinating point actually which we made in an article, I think, which is
Hmm.
about his like so this graph is shows that high gear ball share and with
Hmm.
innings progression, like first 10 overs, next 10. But if you can pay attention here, like in over number 21 to 30, Williamson has the highest high ball share in the highest gears, or the place about 71 to 80. So what happens at 21 to 30 or 71 to 80? 71 to 80 is just before the new ball when you are trying to get over, like you're trying to give it to someone like Aiden Markram, like 3 4 overs and get to the new ball. And 21 to 30 is most likely the last spell before the lunch break if you're a
No,
first
it's
inning.
in
But
fact the other way, right? Like
hmm,
if you look at the other people, like those are typically number fours, right?
hmm,
So 21 to 30 is like where their median entry point would be. So these are people coming in and trying to get settled.
yeah,
On the other hand, Williamson might be like the number three who comes in on average around like the 11 to 20th over.
yeah,
So in some sense, he has a head start over the others. So maybe
hmm.
it could be that, or it's a nice theory that you're saying, like right before lunch there is like
Like there's
like
mostly like a third or second or third spell of your like first bowlers who are slightly tired or
right, or
something
a
like that,
fifth bowler bowling in, right?
or a fifth bowler. But again, yeah, this like any one, but the 71 to 80 is quite fascinating that he is like planning. So the theory that he chooses his movements could
Hmm.
also be quite true. But again, it's quite fascinating his whole attack, and we were not able to solve it completely. But yeah,
Yeah,
now I think
we'll be really happy if somebody finds a way to
if
explain
someone,
that.
yeah, if someone comments Williamson's contact details, I think he's funny. Like his team won today, right? 100. I think yeah, he's enjoying his part. He's enjoying
Oh
today.
yeah, MSG. Huh,
So
MSG. Interesting. Okay.
I don't want to get into MSG, okay, but yeah. So okay, so after Williamson, I think the guy who you are itching to talk about is take over, like Steve Smith, and talk about how great he is in Gear One and how should he never attack anyone.
No, no, with
Like
Steve Smith, you should just talk about how great he is and then move on. Like forget gear one, middle gears, right? No, one thing we can do is actually compare and contrast between Smith and Kohli, right?
yeah,
The
everyone like I
reason,
think and if you need to conclude that Kohli is better because our podcast Indian people we are going to watch our podcast, but it's fine.
uh, come on, man, I grew up watching Steve Smith. There's no way.
Mhm.
Right? No, the interesting thing is this, right? Like both Kohli and Steve Smith are peak batters.
Yeah.
After Bradman, maybe Smith had like the peak of all time.
Hmm.
And Kohli's peak was not on that level, but certainly is in the top five, top 10 peaks of all time, you know. And both the
Hmm.
peaks coincided. It was between 2014 and 2019.
Hmm.
And then came the drop with Kohli. It looked as if his career almost finished after 2020. Whereas
Hmm.
Steve Smith, like, it did not finish, but there was like, he was not Steve Smith anymore. He was just like, I
Yeah.
don't know, Steve Smith. Um, right?
It was he was not Smudger, it was just Steve Smith, something like
Right,
that.
right.
Yeah,
And if
like
you
you
look
can
at
see this graph in this, like it shows really nicely actually that part, like what happens after 2020. Hmm.
Right. So if you look at Steve Smith before, you know, during his peak, right, there is a sense of how he just loves to bat. For him,
Yeah.
it's fine if he has to like face 40 balls straight off Neil Wagner. Like, you know, he's fine being submissive for a part. It's fine if the opponents think that they are better than him for a period. It's fine. The only way he gets a single is this weird scissor shot where the ball rolls between his two legs to deep square leg, right? It really doesn't matter how the runs come for him. All it matters is the runs keep coming. All it matters is that he remains not out. And if you look at his gears, if you look at his low gears, gear zero and gear one, that is Steve Smith being in this drift mode of not caring what's happening.
Yeah.
And if you look at his numbers there, wait, this is Steve Smith's graph that you're flashing here, right?
Yeah, Steve Smith balls per dismissal 2014 to 19 and 2020 plus.
Right? He gets out once every 150 balls in low gears,
Yeah.
right?
That are
And
25 hours.
yeah, it's like half an ODI match all by himself, right?
Yeah.
And you know, so think of what low gears mean, right? Like gear one is your strike rate is between 20 and 40.
Hmm.
So out of 100, if you face 100 balls, you're scoring 40. His average in gear one was 50, 52, right? So this is basically like a career average, but in a year where you're not expected to score at all, right? So
Yeah.
that was how ridiculous he was. Like there is no point in bowling to Steve Smith when he starts defending. Like the captains might as well shake hands, throw the ball into the ground a few times so that the ball gets old, and then he's like, okay, now Smith should start attacking. Right. Virat, on the other hand, was very different. Right. Virat cared about having to block balls in a row. Virat cared if Anderson was beating him on the outside edge 4 balls in a row. For him, he needs to stop the bowler from dominating. And his way of doing that was, he had this prod outside, right, where he would just get a single. And he had this check cover drive where he could, like, get a boundary on Will from that cover drive whenever he wants. Right. So if a bowler finds a way to settle on that channel outside off, he could just find three or four boundaries in the row, on a row. And even though the bowler knows that is the ball to bowl, even though the bowler knows like that is where he's fishing, and if you bowl there for a bit, you'll get that wicket and so on. Good luck bowling there when you're just hit for like four boundaries straight, right? Or when you're just screamed there for 4 5 balls on the straight. So his way is like to dominate bowlers. His way is to not let the run rate stagnate. His way is to be busy.
Hmm.
And do you know where Kohli dominated during 14 to 19 gear wise? The middle
Middle.
gears, right? And curiously, even during his peak, even during when he was like, the second best in the world, discounting Steve Smith, he could not defend. He was getting out every 72 balls during that period. And if you look at like, the top seven batter, like an average top seven batter. So we're talking about batters like, Shan Masood, who's good. He's played for a long time, but he doesn't have that automatic single outside the off stump. Like, you can tie him down. Like these kind of people, like these kind of like the more average international batter, they average close to 69 balls at dismissal, right? So Kohli is only 3 balls better than these batters when he's defending. But if you look at his middle gears, right? Like he is on an entirely different level. He averages 73, I think, and
Yeah,
he gets dismissed like 114, 115 balls,
114.3 balls.
which is only 10 balls behind Steve Smith
Yeah.
in Smith's middle gears, right? In some sense, sure, Smith had a better middle gear than Kohli, but that like Smith on God mode was like he had claims to be the best since Bradman title, like when he was batting on that beast mode. You can't do much. But even with Smith, right? Like while he used to stay, like he used to like be better in the middle gears, he doesn't stay there as much. He always likes to come back to his lower gears. But Kohli loved his middle gears. Like he just sat there. Like what do you do to Kohli?
Mhm.
Right. So there was that element to him, and he was also good at attacking.
Yeah.
Right. So for Steve Smith, how much ever like we are really high on Smith's defense, we are really high on his middle gears. That guy is useless when he has to hit Jack Leach for a six man. Right. Like even during this period, he gets out once every 97 balls, which is not right. Not maybe even less. Am I right
It
or
was less, I think. Like if you look at balls, but yeah, it was 97 at his
right?
peak. Yeah,
Right.
and but it was 78.2. But we have to think about in context with Virat and all these guys are like 150 balls, 160 balls because in Test cricket you don't attack often. You don't get like top four batters don't get out
Right.
while
Those two
hitting a
guys,
six.
Root and Kohli, were at 130, and I think Williamson was like 200 or something
Williamson is just
during this.
insane. Like
And
Virat was also like 200.
right, and I think the top seven batter was like close to 90. So Steve Smith was not particularly better than the top seven batter when it came to attacking.
Yeah.
Right, so it does make sense. Like this guy struggled in his entire career, right? Like his T20 career, Australia tried making him to attack for a long time. Smith didn't want to do that. Some of it was also like the overall T20 conservativeness that existed and right in the game. It's not just Smith's fault, so as to say. But there was also like a clear gap when it comes to picking the right balls and the right options to attack and so on, right?
Hmm.
Kohli didn't have those kind of problems, man. I think when it comes to dominating the bowling, he was totally fine.
Yeah.
And if you look at his fall after 2020, it was the middle gears that gives.
Yeah.
He was
So
still
if you look
decent when it comes to attacking. Go for
like
it. Go for it.
like the ball for dismissal part, right? Like he was in his peak, it was like 114.3 for middle gears, and it
Hmm.
falls to 54.4. Like it's more than half. It just goes, and he was never good at defending. Like his defending was 72.4 balls per dismissal, and it went on to 60. So it was,
Right.
and his attacking gear still
Yeah,
stayed
the
there. It
one
was
part
just
that holds on, it's not elite, but his attacking gear still falls to only 117 balls per dismissal. So he
yeah.
was still okay attacking, and maybe that still screams Kohli somehow that attacking is the one thing he could do quite well, even when his game went.
Yeah. And but that's the thing, right? In the end, Test cricket is about defending because even if you are really like elite at attacking, you are going to only do 18. You are going to only attack like 18%, 20% of your balls. So you still need, if you want to survive more, you need low gears or middle gears. That's your engine room. And I think he never had low gears and he lost his engine room like in middle gears. So that was a sad part of his career in the end. So I think, yeah, I think let's move on then to the best batter of this decade from the two best batters of the previous decade.
I love this story, the Joe Root
Yep.
story, right? So Root in some sense has had two careers, right? Till in the 2010s, like everybody knew he was a great batter except he was not. I used to do these quizzes on Cricinfo. There will be like 10 questions. And if you're 10 Cricinfos, like your cricket knowledge is on the Bradman level. If you're two, I don't want to name players.
Hmm.
Right. But I would always end up getting like 5 to 6 questions, right? And you know what Cricinfo's description would be? Bang on in the attractive zone of Jarut, right? Like he would
Oh,
always
it
get to
was.
these 50s and then he
Hmm.
would get out. His conversion rate was terrible,
Yeah.
right? So he was like one kind of player in the 2010s. And then
Hmm.
2020 happened. And it's as if like he just forgot how to get out in double digits, right? I think he scored basically
Hundreds,
17.
double hundreds. Yeah. He scored
Yeah,
double hundred in
Sri Lanka, right?
Chennai and
No,
in Sri
Chennai was
Lanka.
186, I think.
Oh, it was not double hundred? Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. But
But
okay,
that was like
40
daddy
points will give him
hundreds.
no honorary double hundred. Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Those were like
Uh,
daddy hundreds.
right? And his method also completely changed. In the 2010s, if you look at his numbers, right, he was basically Williamson like.
Yeah,
He relied heavily on his low gears. And interestingly, right, like Williamson overall, Joe Root in that decade, and the average topside batter all have roughly the same, fraction of balls in the low gears,
yeah.
which, just to emphasis, compares to say like an average test batter who really doesn't have that automatic single and getting off spec.
Hmm.
Right? And in the if you once you move into 2020s, right? So the biggest thing that happened there was baseball.
Yeah,
And one thing you would expect is like root scores more boundaries with
yeah.
baseball, right?
So that's
Except
the
that is
fascinating
not
part
what
here, right?
happens.
That's not
That
what
is
happened. So like, if you look at it, like his higher gear performance, like before 2020 is like 18.9, and in baseball it's 21.5, just increased by 2%. But as you told, like his low gears, they were
Mhm,
45% and they moved on to 32.5, like 12.5% of loss there. And where does he compensate for it? From the middle gears, like entirely whole that whole block of 12% shifts to
mhm.
middle gear from 36.1 goes to 46, like a, and that is like a Kohli-esque level of middle gear like share, which is that's what there is a really nice line which I wrote in the article that he was a Williamson light and becomes Kohli light in this decade because yeah, like Kohli also had the similar level of ball share in case of like gears. So yeah, it
Right.
is.
I mean, it's kind of sad, like, like somebody who might end up being the highest run scorer of all time in Test cricket. And the
Yes,
way you
most like
describe his career is like, Williamson light in the first half and Kohli light in the second.
yeah,
Right. And this does describe it, right? Like the two people whom you associate being like in the face, like always being busy, having so many options. Like Root can basically score a single anywhere from third man all the way to cover, irrespective of what ball that you bowl,
yeah,
right? So, like at least with these three, Kohli, Root, and Smith, we're able to give some, stats to the vibe check that has been around. Okay, I'm saying it very generally that Jared has been claiming about these people in the art of batting, and with Williamson, we did have some surprising result as to how well he attacks, right?
yeah,
Right, and
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 hmm,
this is just like a summary stats for gears, you would say, right? Like, so we basically looked at how these people perform in low gears, middle gears, and high gears, and maybe like some context on, when their peaks were, when did their game change, and so on.
yeah.
You
So
can
yeah, so.
go for it,
Hmm.
go for it.
So after this, like we thought about like where it could be more fascinating to look into gears. So as we know that everyone starts differently in their innings. So we thought that okay, let's look into how people start their innings and let's see what exciting stats we can get out of it. Or we know, right, the Test cricket is a 4 innings game and every innings have different conditions and they change differently. So again, we looked at them at across the 4 innings and Adityan's favorite part of the article. I think you should tell about it. We looked into the like preferences with batting partners. I think yeah. So
Yeah,
you'll
Athurva did a fantastic job writing it. I think that's a
yes.
part which I'll have him read excerpts from. But
Yeah, so let's start with the starting and innings, I think.
right. With each of these, right? It's not just like a matter of, oh, look, Steve Smith bats really well in low gears, and he's really great at starting in low gears, starting an innings in low gears. Right? There's something surprising that happens there. Not so much with Williamson, Kohli, and Root. It kind of is along the lines of what you expect from them.
Yeah,
Williamson takes the steady the ship captain chance quite seriously. I think he starts in gear zero, like in 39% of his
percent of
innings,
the time, yeah.
almost the same as like an average topside batter.
Yeah.
No, an
Like
average
slightly
topside
higher
batter is
than
34%,
actually
like 5% more.
34%.
He's like slower,
Yeah.
right? So he really is cautious in how he starts.
Hmm.
Kohli, on the other hand, is slightly quicker. He's like 31% of his innings he starts in gear zero, so it's like slightly quicker. Root is like even more slightly quicker, which is all great.
Yeah. So
The
hmm.
interesting thing here is Steve Smith.
Yep.
That guy starts in gear five and gear six even more often than Joe.
Yeah.
Um, right? And if you look at his the fraction of gears he starts in gear zero, that's only 23%, like 11% less than average batter. And I think even oh, not 5%, okay, 3% quicker than Joe Root, right? That is
Hmm.
certainly not what we expect from Steve Smith, and that is certainly not what we told you about when we said he defends Neil Wagner for 40 balls straight,
Yeah.
right? In some sense, Steve Smith is like the ultimate problem solver, right? Like he's on that level with Yunus Khan, Ashwin, Sachin Tendulkar. Like, like okay, something's not working in this pitch. Why the bowler is trying to come wide of the crease and trying to bowl in swing? So I'm going to, like rotate my hip by 45 degrees, like turn my neck towards the wicket keeper, like keep the bat back in the dressing room. I'll bat with one leg, and that way I'll deflect all the in swing. Like he's like that kind of a.
Also, I think you forgot one thing. Also, I'll tell a cameraman at fine leg that he's coming into my vision, and I'll tell him to move, and then I'll get everything right. So yeah, like I get your point. Like Stu Smith is like ultimate problem solver, right? Like
Right.
so, like, and this was the thing which we, I think, when we started writing about this article, we were going to write about it. Like we thought that okay, Stu Smith is playing quicker when he was
That was
opening
supposed to
at
be our
that
first
time.
article,
That
yeah.
was supposed to be our first article, but what happened at the time that the data was not that much, so we were ahead of its time. Like these artsy modern films when they don't work out,
Oh,
director says that oh, it was just ahead of the time. Like
I
people
like your
admit.
humility. That's what I really admire about you.
Yeah, that
Right.
is.
No,
Yeah.
so what
So,
happened was there was this West Indies series back then, and then
hmm.
there were like a couple of quick wickets. Or no, was he even opening? No, he was back to number four. Okay, I don't remember.
No, no, he was
And
opening. Huh.
he was opening then. Okay,
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
so he would like almost automatically start at like 18 ball 18 or 15 ball 15 or 20 ball 23 or something of that kind, right? So we
Yeah.
actually thought this was like an overall pattern, and Steve Smith generally likes starting his inning quick before he finds his way to like stray as he goes by. Except it
Hmm.
was not. There were like few innings where he was starting quickly, and there were few
Yeah.
innings where he was not.
Yeah.
And there is an element of which innings that is, right? So if you
Hmm.
I don't know, scroll down or scroll up, I don't remember where the graph is.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Uh, right? If you look at his, the fraction of balls in the first 10 overs, right? This could either be because like of the great opening experiment or because there were a couple of quick wickets and he was batting in there,
This
right?
antenna which just sticks out.
Right? That is like the one place where he actually attacks more than the other three, like even Joe Root and Kohli for that matter. And
Hmm.
from there on, it's almost never the case that he's most aggressive in terms of fraction of balls in high gears,
Yeah.
right? Wait, and then I think okay, not even in 71 to 80. So I think once he's set, he's like, no, I'm Steve Smith, I'm just batting my way. But like
Yeah.
the first 10 overs is where he is really, really willing to attack the bowler. And that is his problem solving in full tilt, right? So there is an element of, okay, look, he has priced out like probably David Warner in that era, and then like whoever the number three was in the 2010s. So that means the pitch is doing something. There's no point just coming in there and then like awkwardly leaving balls. And when I say awkwardly, really awkwardly for Steve Smith.
Hmm.
So there his point is okay, let me just throw the bowler off from his line. And once the ball stops doing something, now he knows like his defense is fine. Like he knows his ball, his hand-eye coordination. He could get the ball to deep square like whenever he wants. And then he just gives up and then like this changes the way he plays entirely.
Yep.
Right. So that is something that's like really really fascinating about his problem solving. Okay, innings by innings. Atharva, that's your pet project. You have some really nice things to say about Steve Smith and Virat Kohli in there, right?
So so innings by innings, like I'll just share one graph like that. Just so fascinating. So we all of us know, right? Like Virat is the chase master and whatever the name Star Sports chooses to talk about him. Yeah.
Super
So
V.
like Super V, yeah. So yes. So Virat is a chase master, we know, like, but in Test cricket also he's a chase master. Like he is the guy who has a better average in second innings than the first, and fourth innings than the third innings. Like it's quite fascinating. No one else other than the in Fab Four has that. And with and we all know about the insomnia which Smith has. Like he plays cricket at night also. He's just in his room and all. He's not sleeping all days. So and you can see that in his like average. Like his first inning average is 81.3. I think he all this reputation he built it on it. And then it's 52.2, and then it's 40.6, and then it's Dikavela, Niroshan Dikavela level average.
30 in the fourth innings,
He's
right?
third in the fourth innings. So like
Surprisingly, we were actually looking for who averages 30 in the fourth innings.
yeah,
I was pretty sure Jadeja would be higher, but somehow Jadeja is actually lower than Steve Smith, which is sad. But yeah, like 30 is not what you associate with Smithy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, and it was quite fascinating to see the from the perspective of gears.
Hmm.
Because let's say Steve Smith, I felt that okay, like he will have a different gear distribution in first innings and the fourth innings. But if you
Hmm.
look at these graphs, it's bang on. It's eerily similar. It's eerily similar. Like it's that similar. So the guy just tries to imitate himself as he played in gear in first innings and still fails on every account. Like it's just like it's not like he's trying to play differently. He's still
Yeah.
trying to clock
I
same
mean,
gears, but he's
with
just
Steve Smith, I think I know what you mean when you're saying imitation, right? Like in
mm,
2025 in the BGT, like he had clearly lost his shuffle,
yeah,
for in this decade, and then he was like, okay, the shuffle worked for me in the 2010s. Let me artificially add the shuffle for the first few balls. And once he said he started losing his shuffle slowly, he was just trying to imitate himself from the 2010s. So
yeah.
maybe he was trying to imitate himself from the first innings to the fourth innings, or it's just a matter of okay, this is the gears that I'm comfortable playing in. It's not as if he changes a lot between the way he plays across innings.
And like the way you said it, it's not the fact that he changes a lot the way he plays, but it is the fact sometimes that Steve Smith changes everything about the way he plays. And it was about and in that place, like Kohli is very fascinating. So he dominates innings two and innings four, but he dominates those innings with different tools. So in innings two, he dominates by his middle gears. So think about innings two will be like most likely a second day, like second day lunch or second day morning, which is a nice, really good batting conditions where most likely there won't be any ball with your name on it. So if you are consistent enough, you'll be able to score more. So he maximizes his ability in strike rotating, in hitting boundaries and staying in middle gears. But when he tries dominating gear four, he just maximizes his attacking options more. It's like and again, he's insanely great at attacking. Like his balls per dismissal is about 200 and like best attacking batsman in these Fab Four. So that's what
In the
I liked
2010s,
about
right?
this
Yeah.
one.
Mhm.
Huh? In
In the 2010s, right?
in 2010s, yeah,
Yeah,
obviously.
right, right, right.
Huh. So everything about Virat is 2010. I forgot that Virat played to 2025. So
Right.
and
No,
that's
the
a
weird thing is like what people have been crying about Virat in the 2020s is like that man is like really rigid.
yeah.
Like he changes absolutely nothing in the way he bats and how he just how he's like very fixed in his ways. And
Hmm.
Steve Smith is the opposite of that, like his ability to change the way he bats in the middle. But the guy who actually adapts between the four innings is actually, the person who you don't expect to attack as much, to adapt
Yeah.
as much, right? And I don't know, for the other guy, really, sleeping pills. I think he even tried hypnosis. I think he tried everything he could, but Smith really could not solve the 5 days of a test match problem.
I can show him some Bollywood movies, I think, like which could help him. So I think Australia, Cricket Australia, please mail me. I
Kabhi
can
Kushi
help
Kabhi
them.
Gum. Let's go.
Only gum, no kushi while watching those movies. Okay then. After this, I think you should take over about like tell them how great the like part I have written. Yeah.
Right, right. I think for this part, I think we'll have to move slightly away from the podcast
Also,
format and then like just start reading excerpts from this.
it's a
Um,
ASMR part of this podcast.
okay, let me find the
Also, yes, I think we hmm,
right. Okay,
yes,
so yeah, preferences with batting partners. Both Kohli and Smith did their best work between 2014 and 2019, but when it came to finding the right partners to do it with, he each had his own type. Kohli kept things conventional. He preferred to lead from the front and was nowhere near as effective with the lower middle. So basically, right? So the point is, was much more comfortable playing with the top five. He averaged 94.8 in the middle gears and lasted like around 150 balls per dismissal when he was playing with the top five. And this outdid even Steve Smith. Steve
yeah.
Smith was like he averaged 75 at 120 balls per dismissal.
Hmm.
This is just the middle gears and high gears. You don't have to say like Smith didn't know how to attack, and Kohli was like 155 balls per dismissal, so it was like almost on the same level, middle and high gears. On the other hand, with Steve Smith, right, I think number 6 to 8 is when Steve Smith comes into the conversation. Like in gear zero, he was dismissed exactly once, and guess how many balls he faced in gear zero in the 2010s with number 6 to 8. Oh, you have this in screen.
646.
646 balls. Once in 646 balls.
How did I guess it? Hmm.
Yeah. And if you look at gears one, two, and three, that's once every roughly 200 balls. I think gear three is the slowest at 193 balls or so.
Hmm.
You can make a claim that maybe it is because Australia's 6 to 8 folded much quickly compared to India, which is kind of true. Like Australia's 6 to 8, like folded every, like they average 24, 25 runs per dismissal, whereas India 6 to 8 average like 32 runs per dismissal. So the thing could be, oh, like Steve Smith just did not face many balls with 6 to 8 because they were just getting out quickly. But that is not entirely the case, right? In the sense, like, just look at the number of balls he takes to get dismissed.
Hmm.
And both Kohli and Smith bat with number 6 to 8 in roughly 34, 35% of their innings. So it's not like one gets to bat with them more often and the other does not, and things like those. And with Kohli's superiority, right? That is actually also like not just some weird spurious correlation that's happening. India's top five averaged 41 during that period, and Australia's top five averaged 42 during that period.
Yeah.
So they were playing with similarly strong top fives, and Kohli like truly liked playing with the top five. Okay, so now if we move on from that, Kohli re-enters the conversation from the back, batting with the tail. So there it's a different kind of an attack that he does, right? So he spends 45% of those deliveries when batting with the tail in high gears. Remember, when we were talking about the best attackers in cricket, Adam Gilchrist, who almost always bats with the tail, right? He comes in at number seven. He
Hmm.
attacked one in every four balls. This
Yeah.
is one in roughly every two balls when batting with the tail. And even compared to the Fab Four, Steve Smith is like 26%, Root is at 34%. Um, right? And it's not as if he was just attacking more and just going out. He lasted 163 balls per dismissal and averaged 214, right? And then there were like 35% of these deliveries in the middle gear. Like he just did not choose to defend at all when batting with the tail. So
Hmm.
it was not an element of, okay, I'll block four balls, try to get one boundary here, one boundary there, maybe sneak a single here, there. No, none of this was happening. He was actually attacking, getting boundaries at a consistent clip. Compare that to Steve Smith. Even when batting with Nathan Lyon, he was like, okay, good. I'm happy to spend one out of every three balls in low gear. Right? So these were like entirely two different approaches on how you bat with the tail. I think you were telling me about how Steve Smith likes to, go with the Steve Waugh school of batting with the tail, of trusting the
Yeah.
tail.
And you just said
Yeah,
that Steve was selfish, and then yeah,
yeah. Except
it's
Steve Waugh
a
was
full
doing that so
argument.
that he averages 50 in Test cricket. But I don't know what's with Steve Smith. Like, maybe he did not understand how to do it, but I don't know. He's one of the
No,
best
there is
problem
a
solvers.
skill issue, right? We have seen that like
Right, and he could
huge
not
skill issue.
attack, but I don't know if that's what you do. If when you're batting with the tail, I'm pretty sure Steve Smith is a better attacker than Nathan Lyon, the defender. I don't know how I know it, but that's what my intuition really tells
Wow.
me.
You have a
Um,
great cricketing knowledge. You have an eye for and like you should be scouting for Rajasthan Royals.
exactly.
Next.
Right.
Hmm.
However, come 2020, with the pace playing pandemic and like the Indian spin tracks, right? You can
Yep.
actually see Kohli's preferences changing entirely. From being like the best amongst the Fab Four in the middle gears with the top five, he actually goes to like the bottom amongst the top four when sorry with the amongst the Fab Four when batting with the top five. He
Yep.
now averages only like 30 and lasts like 50 balls per dismissal, right? On the
I
other
think this
hand, he
was the
was
period like when it changed that Virat batting with the tail towards like Pant batting with the tail. This is the period when it's like Virat was the guy who was getting out. It was not
hmm,
like staying there. Yeah.
right? And in some sense, like okay, I'll make this statement and then it will actually be clear as to what was happening, right? He was still fine batting with numbers 6 to 8. He was averaging like 53 at 84 balls a dismissal when batting like in the middle gears, right? And high gears also like they were fine when batting with 6 to 8.
Hmm.
So what happens is, or what we believe happens is like the wobble ball,
Yeah.
right? When you're bowling wobble ball, the ball becomes softer, like much slower than bowling swing. Like when you're bowling swing, you're hitting the seam like every ball.
Hmm.
So the seam like it is getting dented ball after ball after ball. But the way you bowl the wobble seam, sometimes it skids off the ledger, sometimes it hits the seam. So the seam stays fresh for a longer duration, which means
Hmm.
the ball is going to move for a longer duration. Even during his peak, like there is this idea of how Kohli is fine handling high end pace, but he doesn't enjoy the ball moving as such.
Hmm.
So this is an era when the ball is going to be harder and when it's going to be moving for longer. So you need more protection for Kohli. So maybe it would have made sense for Kohli to slide down the order, bat at five, at six, or hopefully the top five or the top two, three make more runs so that he comes in later to bat. But the opposite of that was happening, right? Like the India's top two are just like getting out for fun. Like their average of like the top five batters for India fell to 31.4 during this period.
Yeah.
Like Ashwin and Akshar were like still making a lot of runs. Remember BGT 24, 23 was it? Yeah.
Huh.
Where Akshar and Ashwin basically score like 10,000 runs to give India the lead, like to dissipate all the lead, the 100-run lead that Australia had, and so on, right? So once the ball went soft, like people could still make runs, but batting in the top order was like a real curse, and Kohli was like really stuck in that. Right, in the sense of he had to enter before the 20th over in close to
70% of
70%
it.
of innings after 2020, and it was like 47% of the innings in the 2010s. And in this period, it's not as if like he was just trying to do just one thing and then he kept failing against the wobble ball. That poor man really tried a lot of things. If you look at this graph here, if you look at the fraction of balls in low gears, in 2021, he spent 53% of balls, 54% of balls in the low gear, which even goes up to like 62, 61% in 2022. So these 2 years, he was like, okay, the ball is new, the ball is hard, let me grind it out. That did not work.
Yeah.
And then if you look at 23 and 24, all of a sudden he's like, okay, I'm just going to smack the ball out and then try to get what I can out of it, right? So it's like below 15% in 2021 and it goes all the way to 27% in 2024, about 20% in 2023. So he was like, okay, let me defend, let me attack. He tried everything that he could in these 4 years. It was just hard. Like, what do you do?
Yeah. Like that was it, right? And then it's like, but I like only thing which I don't like is that Kohli gets a lot of flack for not trying stuff. I think this
Hmm.
could be the piece where, in some way, these Kohli haters, most of the time we too are those one of the people. But yeah, like they'll get the answer for their questions. And yeah,
Right, right, right. No. Okay, so now comes the best
that's
line that you wrote for this entire article. Unlike Smith and Kohli, Root was largely agnostic about whether his partner came from the top or the lower middle.
we are
Right?
talking about cricket.
Yeah, 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 purely about cricket.
Yeah.
Um, right. So we can split Root's career into like two major parts and one transitionary part in some sense, right?
Hmm.
There was a 2014 to 2019 where the other two were like in the peak of their careers while Root was busy being Williams and Light,
Williamson like.
and then post 22, the basketball period. So in both these periods, Root really doesn't have much of a preference between whom he's batting with. I think in the previous period, they would always be like 17 for 2, 17 for 3, and Root would be coming in. So it really doesn't matter. But there, you would just like spend a lot more balls in the low gear. I think 41%. Let me quickly look up his numbers.
Yeah.
Right. So I think around 40, 42% there in low gears, and 36% middle, and 21% in high.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter as to whether it's the top or the lower middle.
Like
And if you
again,
can't
like
look.
if you,
Mhm.
yeah, again, like whatever Arjun said, right? If you just look at this graph, the first middle diagram is the only diagram where there is any intersection. And intersection means that he's changing his preference a lot. Like
Hmm.
one line is going up and other line is going down. So the when he says that it's not like he was agnostic for 2014 to 19 and he was again agnostic from 2022, there was some period of time where he believed in something, but which is quite different. But again, we are not able to decipher what happened there because that was just 1 year and that was a period when they were on the run. I think they played in Sri Lanka, they played in India, and if we had like 2 3 years bunch there, we could have
Yeah, it
gotten
would have
into
been
it.
nice
Like,
if
why
like
did this
basketball
happen?
started in 2023 or something. So we would have had like 3 years of peak route, and then we would have had 3 years of basketball route, and then you would have understood what was happening there. So in
Hmm.
2021, he was still like spending 41% of his deliveries in low gear. So he was just
Yeah.
scoring runs, but he was still doing it the Williamson way, not the Kohli way.
Hmm.
And then if you look at like the post basketball period, right? He's still fine. Like he's still the same with the top and the middle. It's just like he spends 32% of balls in low gears. Like does the low gears disappear entirely? So
Yep.
something that we said before, right? Like in some sense, basketball did not cause Root to hit more boundaries. It just caused him to score like a lot more singles than was in the 2010s.
Yep.
But anyways, right? So the story is kind of satisfactory and incomplete in the same sense, right? Like there are like, I think the term that we use is that Steve Smith likes batting until the heat death of the universe. Virat likes to dominate. Root takes the single, come what may.
Hmm.
And like the Gears does give you like at least some backing to these vibe checks. It's not as if we have unquestionably proved these things using data. I think there's a long, long way before we can make any claims of that sort. But at least there are like really strong signals as to confirming these things, which like you require somebody of like the level of Jared to give us like a vibe check on these things, right? And then we confirm these. Now the question can be, okay, good. There are tons and tons of such vibe checks which people make, right? So for instance, if you talk about Pant and Ben Stokes,
Hmm.
um, right? So Jared talks about how these guys are like, you know what, this ball I'll defend, and then bowl like a waist high full toss they'll defend,
Yep.
and then like this ball I'm going to hit for a six, and that's exactly what Stokes did to Hazelwood. Like he picked an end, he knew that Hazelwood was going to bowl back off length. Like he would just hit it for a six over and over. Like just one shot, keep spamming the six button as if he's playing like cricket 24 or something. Right, and the same for Pant. Like he would just go down and then scoop. Like he would basically do a somersault and then midway he'll connect the ball for like over fine leg for a six. Like
Reverse
all
scoop
kind of.
and James Anderson, whatever. Like,
Oh yeah, right.
yeah. So like whole point is that, right? Like we have these guys who are very different and we can apply this metric to them, and like
Mm-hmm.
I think this metric could be applied to limited overs cricket. This metric, again, there is this new term which is floating around, which is the role players. Like what is your role in like role definitions in T20 cricket and everything. And I think this metric does have a potential in a way when because this metric tells us about the tempo of an innings, and it's not like it looks at like 50 balls. It can look at like 8 balls, 9 balls. And I think the limited over cricket, it changes a lot in that period. And these
Hmm.
role players where you have some role definitions, I think these things could be exciting. So yeah, there is like great things are ahead if we really
Right. So
apply
once again,
this.
the point being is there's like a lot of context that you can still get just from the ball by ball data that's available within the game, right? Like you don't have to need like a Tendulkar putting away his cover drive level story to tell every single story that we know about
Hmm.
in cricket. And yeah, Gears is just one such endeavor towards it. So yeah, so this is our first attempt at bowling into the rough.
Yep.
And let us know if you agree with the analysis or whether you have no idea about what cricket is. Um, no, no, like feel free to tell us if you don't agree with us. Feel free to tell us if you agree with us. Thanks for staying with us for the full podcast. Until we meet you folks again.
Bye.